we reached up to this point when the British Crown took over the administration of the British India. And that time in 1858, the British India included some part of what we call India today. In fact, substantial part of that. And then what we call Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Burma जो उस समय कहते थे. So that was the reason, and in between there were some pockets occupied by Nawabs or kings, but major part of India was part of the company administration. So that part was included in the British administration in 1858. So there were interesting decisions made after then, and in order to understand our constitution, we need to just be aware of whatever happened after this till 1947. So consider this act was passed in 1857 and it was implemented in 1858 finally. So all the Indian territories with the company were vested in the crown and governed by the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State was assisted by a 15 members council in which there were government nominees and the representatives of the East India Company. So immediately after the takeover of the Indian administration, there was discussion, and then the discussion was followed by this act called Indian Councils Act of 1861. And this act was to give a comprehensive legal document to the administration so that the British India can be governed properly, and of course in the name of Crown. So 1861 Indian Councils Act is very important with reference to the understanding of the present Constitution of India. What is significant about it is the association or inclusion of Indian representatives in the decision-making powers. Before that, there was no say in the Governor General's Council. There was no member from India. So this 1861 Act is important because through this act, the Indian people, the Indian leaders were included in the Indian Council. तो Indian Councils Act जो थी उसमें ये डिसीजन लिया गया और बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट डिसीजन था. और आप देखिए कि फ्रॉम 19th century, right from the beginning of 19th century, you have different social reforms introduced in Indian region by the company, right? So different laws were included, and whatever you have today, Criminal Procedure Code or Indian Penal Code, they all are 19th century laws if you look at the original document. So 19th century is important in the legal history of India, and you can see the landmarks. From 1858 onwards, the administration was taken over by the government, British government itself, and the Indian leaders used to press this demand that they must have their say in the local administration, in the policy making exercise. So that demand was met in 1861 Indian Councils Act, and they were included. Then the division of powers in different governing bodies was also introduced in this particular act. So through this act, there was a decentralization of legislative powers of the Governor General's Council and the powers of the governments of Bombay and Madras. The kind of powers today you see in the legislative assemblies of the states to design laws, and there you have the separation of subjects on which the parliament can make laws, and you have the subjects, defined subjects on which the state assemblies can design laws. And then there is a list called concurrent list where the state assemblies as well as parliament can make laws. And in the case of any conflict, the laws made by the parliament take over the state laws in the case of conflict. So that is the present situation. We will learn all these things little later. But look at the division of the boundary for the purpose of legislation. So the Governor General's Council got, of course, substantial matter and many subjects to design laws, but for all administrative purposes, the local presidencies of Bombay and Madras were given power to make laws on certain issues, right? Issues which were of local importance. So this way, you see the division of legislative powers between the centralized administration and the local administration, right? And finally, the present Constitution of India makes a clear provision for that. Right now, we are learning from where we have got all these provisions and how we have incorporated them in the Constitution. Now, as I said, because the Indian leaders were demanding their say in the administration, so of course 1861 Act made that provision, but they had very limited powers and there were only few. So to have a kind of organized political activity, the Indian National Congress was established in 1885. And its first session was held in Bombay. That session was presided by Vyomesh Chandra Banerjee, and Ellen Octavian Hume, A.O. Hume, was elected the General Secretary of the Indian National Congress in that session. And in this very first session, that demand that Indian leaders must be included in the policy-making bodies was very systematically advanced. That demand was considered time to time when there was any process of legislation. So you look at the immediately following Indian Councils Act 1892, there the entry of elected members in the council marked the new era in the life of the council. So 1868 Indian Councils Act did not make any provision for election of the representatives, right? Leaders were nominated. Now through this Indian Councils Act 1892, you see that the election prescribed, you see after the establishment of the Indian National Congress, the political activities were organized, and with the awareness of the Indian leaders and Indian population, because of a regular contact with the British administration, and also many people went to Europe or America for their studies. So they saw the social structure there. So they realized that in India, the Britishers are committing heinous crimes against the people. And in their own country, they are behaving in a very civilized way. So the political activity got, in fact, further enhanced because of English education and because of the information received from different corners of the world, and of course the increment in the activities at the global level. Certainly the British administration in India was careful in admitting the demands and also showed some kind of sensitivity, and as a result the Indian people were also included in the different significant decision-making bodies. But again, the major say was always with the British. That was found very unsatisfactory by the Indian leaders. So they said that we don't want anything, we want self-rule. We don't want to have instruction coming from Europe and then we manage our affairs. We want to have a responsible self-governance within this subcontinent. And of course, there was no such demand that the Britishers must go away, at least in the beginning of 20th century. So there was a demand for Swaraj. Swaraj means that the Indian people must have responsible governance, of course, under the supervision of the Britishers. But the demand was that there must be a responsible government here in this region, not always looking for instructions from their masters sitting thousands of miles away. So look at the Kolkata session, 22nd session of Indian National Congress in 1906 was a kind of faint beginning of the demand of independence from the British government. From 1906 onwards, a lot more political activity of different kinds. In fact, there were some extremists and there were moderates. So political movements got different colors, and because of that, the government got scared and the government started playing politics. The communal politics was also played. So this committee, which was under the Secretary of States and the Governor General of Bengal, Marley and Minto, they together submitted a report, and based on that report, in 1909, the Indian Council Act was passed. And what the most negative, or you can say the most notorious act you can think of in the beginning of 20th century was precisely this, the Indian Councils Act 1909. And through this act, the principle of indirect election was introduced. And the notorious thing which was through this act was a separate election and representation of the Muslim community. And you know what happened because of this politics. And now, even now, we are facing difficulties of that negative politics. So the Indian Councils Act 1909 is also called communal reward to the people of India, right? Reward in a very pejorative sense. Now again, you see, if you look at the historical events from 1905 to 1915, 1915 year is very important in Indian history. I am talking about the year, not this particular act which you see on the top, Government of India Act 1915. That act is of course important, but some of you must be reminded of the appearance of Mahatma Gandhi in 1915 in Indian politics in a very moderate way. That time he was not known as Mahatma Gandhi. So consider, after a lot more protest and some kind of negative politics, you see the communal drift appearing in the Indian subcontinent. And the Indian politicians tried their best to unite all, and that resulted into some kind of compromise or some kind of, let us say, unification, not exactly integration perfectly. But of course, and the immediate outcome was that the Indian leaders together, without caring for any communal division, demanded that there must be self-responsible or there must be a responsible government in this particular region managed by Indian people, right? So in 1906, you see the demand of Swaraj was introduced, and because of that, you see almost 10 years of period till this year 1915. You see the government was also trying to pacify the demands of Indian leaders. So in that effort, the Government of India Act 1915 was passed. And the Indian leaders were looking for this act with great more hope. But then they were frustrated because this act provided nothing but the consolidation of all the laws which were passed earlier. And then after seeing this act, the leaders further demanded reform and responsible government within Indian subcontinent, and that resulted into Montagu's declaration on 20th August 1917. And this declaration is important so far as the Indian freedom struggle is concerned, which was subsequently resulted into full-fledged freedom. What was said in this declaration, Montagu's declaration, was that there will be a responsible government in Indian subcontinent. So it will not simply look for guidelines from Europe, but it will have its own decision-making power within this region. So this declaration was pursued. This Montagu-Chelmsford report was introduced, and based on this report, the Government of India Act 1919 was passed. And through this act is very important so far as the constitutional history of India is concerned. Through this act, a diarchy devolution principle was introduced. What this means is given below. You see, the Indian Legislative Council was replaced by a bicameral legislatures consisting of a council of states, what you call today Rajya Sabha, and a legislative assembly, what you call Lok Sabha today. The second thing which was introduced, the rules for classification of subjects between central and provincial. The rules for classification of subjects between central and provincial governments. So here you have the listing, a proper listing of all the subjects on which the central administration, central legislative assembly will formulate laws, and the subjects on which provincial legislatures will formulate laws. And within this, there were some reserved and transferred matters. That means the central administration kept something reserved for itself, and it also retained this power that certain matters may be delegated to different provincial governments to design laws as and when required, right? So of course, the broad division was made between the subjects of central and provincial administration, but then you see the central administration remained powerful even in that case. And today you see the union government in India, the most powerful governance body, and you can sense that yes, we have borrowed the administration from the British parliamentary democracy, and there the central government has got more powers than the state government. So the Government of India Act 1919 made this provision that after 10 years, there will be a review. As per the situation, there will be another legislation for the smooth conduct of governance. So, इसके बाद, you know, in 1929, the new legislation was due. So, to facilitate that, a commission was formulated by the British government, the Simon Commission. And this commission came to India, and after meeting different representatives and other people, it submitted its report in 1927. But those who are familiar with the events in the third decade, they know that this commission was opposed by Indian leaders, precisely for the reason that the British government was promising a responsible government in India, and there was no member part of this commission whose report was going to matter for ruling over the Indian people, right? So the commission was opposed, but the government didn't care much about it. So on the recommendations of this commission, the government tried to implement, but because of strong opposition, the government postponed the legislation, and then there were very wide consultations, and by then Mahatma Gandhi was a prominent figure in the scene. So the government invited Indian leaders, different representatives to discuss, and they went what you call round table conferences. तो इसमें जो भी discussion हुआ, जो भी proposal resolution pass हुआ, उसको 1934 के रिपोर्ट में सबमिट किया गया, और इस रिपोर्ट में इसके जो चेयरमैन थे लॉर्ड लिनलिथिगो, तो उन्होंने रिपोर्ट सबमिट किया 1934 में, और इस रिपोर्ट में ये कहा गया कि देयर शुड बी ए फेडरेशन ऑफ ऑल इंडिया टू मैनेज द अफेयर्स, द गवर्नेंस इन द इंडियन सबकॉन्टिनेंट. That was very important suggestion, which was never implemented. But the positive thing was that on the basis of the 1934 report, the Government of India Act 1935 was passed. And this act is the most significant acts among all the acts passed by British government during their rule. This act is available online, so you can see this Government of India Act. I recommend that you must see it, all of you must see it, for several reasons, but one I can just point out, that if you put the Constitution of India on your right side and the Government of India Act 1935 on your left side and try to compare, you will find 70% similarity between the Indian Constitution and this act. So just try to compare these two documents. You will be amazed to see the similarity. And as I said, 70% similarity, including the chapterization, article, so many things are. There are certain important decisions made through this act. Number one, you see, then Burma, which is now called Myanmar, was separated from India. So the British India and the British Burma got separated in through 1935 Act, which was of course implemented in 1936. So आज का जो बर्मा या म्यांमार है, वो पहले एक ही में हुआ करता था भारत में, और वो इस एक्ट के थ्रू उसको अलग एक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन बना दिया गया. 1936 separation, you can consider the first separation or first division of what we call Bharat. And then of course in 1947 you found the second division. तो इस एक्ट के थ्रू पहला ये इम्पोर्टेंट डिसीजन किया गया. दूसरा जो डिसीजन मैंने कहा कि जैसे रिपोर्ट ने ये कहा था कि देयर विल बी ए फेडरेशन ऑफ ऑल इंडिया, दैट मीन्स द ब्रिटिश रीजन एंड द प्रिंसली स्टेट्स, they will all join together to formulate a federation, like you have the United States where all the 50 states, and now it's going to be 51, join together to have a federation. And federation is a kind of agreed entity, a centralized federal entity, and that centralized entity is established on the basis of the agreement between the participating administrative zones. And they have full freedom, in fact, but for certain purposes, they unite and form a federation. So their matters of common interest would be managed by the federal government, and then other matters will be dealt locally by the local government. So that was the idea of Federation of All India. But there was a condition on this, that this will be implemented only when more than 50% provinces agree to join this federation. Otherwise, they all are occupying different pockets. So the purpose of federation will fail if majority of the states don't become part of that unit. And as you are aware, they didn't agree to that, and as a result, there was no actualization of the Federation of All India. And in this act, matters related to defense, external affairs, religious and tribal affairs, these were the agreed or proposed matters on which the federal government will have power, and regarding all other matters, the state governments or the princely states will have their say. But even for this much little common matters, the kings or the princes did not agree, and that's why in 1935 there was no Federation of All India. फिर इस एक्ट के तहत एक काम और किया गया. 2 new provinces, Orissa and Sindh, were formed. So that was, of course, within the British administered unit. So, and the governors' provinces were given separate recognition as autonomous units of administration. And through this act, as I said, 70% things are common between Indian Constitution and this act. So that was an effort to give a written constitution to the country, full-fledged constitution to the country. इसके पहले आपने जो देखा था, जो रेगुलेटिंग एक्ट था, वो भी उसको कहते हैं, जो रेगुलेटिंग एक्ट 1773 का था, वो भी एक ऐसा एफर्ट था, लेकिन वो उतना सिग्निफिकेंट नहीं था. उसके बाद कोई लेजिस्लेटिव इम्पोर्टेंट लेजिस्लेटिव इवेंट नहीं हुआ जो ब्रिटिश एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में. पॉलिटिकल इवेंट तो बड़े सारे हुए. आप देखिए, जो फाइनली देश को बंटवारे तक ले गया, तो इस तरह के पॉलिटिकल इवेंट्स तो बहुत सारे हुए, लेकिन कोई लेजिस्लेटिव इवेंट, सिग्निफिकेंट लेजिस्लेटिव इवेंट नहीं हुआ. एक चीज, ये कैबिनेट कमीशन 1946 में जो बनाया गया था, कमीशन ने जो प्रपोजल दिया था, उसमें एक यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया का प्रपोजल दिया था, जो वास्तव में अभी जो यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया, जैसे आर्टिकल 1 कहता है कि इंडिया, दैट इज भारत, शैल बी द यूनियन ऑफ स्टेट्स, Article 1 in Indian Constitution. So that is exactly the proposal of the Cabinet Mission 1946, that there will not be any Federation of India, there will be Union of India, right? And that was a really interesting proposal of the Cabinet Mission. Besides that, through this mission, it was proposed that there will be a Constituent Assembly which will formulate a constitution, which will draft a constitution for the Union of India. These 2 very important suggestions came from this commission, the Cabinet Mission, and the Muslim League persons were disappointed because it proposed a Union of India. So a lot more disturbances, you know, the history happened. And then finally, in March 1947, Mountbatten was appointed as Viceroy, and he came with a proposal of dividing India on communal grounds. And that we are still suffering because of that division. And let us hope that the politicians of Indian subcontinent will have wisdom one day, that we retain Bharat of before 1935 division, including all the regions which are today, right? So let us hope that one day it happens, but it could be a Mungeri Lal ka sapna, considering the present situation. But there is nothing wrong in dreaming that.